Welcome back to this tutorial series on using Custom Cabinet Estimator. This video tutorial will be on reports in Custom Cabinet Estimator. So from the dashboard, which is where we almost always start, it's where we launch from anyway, I'm going to go to the Reports button in the top right corner here, and then we're going to select a job. Now if you come from a job you're actually in and hit Reports, you'll actually have the rooms for that job here. But I'm going to select a job, and since we've been working on this Buttercup Castle job, then I'm going to start here with this one. And you got several options here. You can select all, you can select none, and you can select them one at a time, however you want to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and use all three of these, even though they're somewhat redundant, because it's just a test job, just to illustrate this process. And then you have three tabs here, and I'm not going to spend any time with these. You guys can play around with them all you want. This is really for your internal use to kind of look at your costs. So there's really no point in us spending any time with them, but every checkbox you tick off is going to be included in any report you do, and these are all about your costs to make the job. This is not something you would ever provide to a client, so I'm not going to spend any time with them. We're going to spend all our time here. And an estimate and proposal are identical in every way with two exceptions. The name at the top of the report will be estimate if you choose estimate, and proposal if you choose proposal, and the conditions will be appropriate for which of the two you choose. So fairly short and sweet for estimate and fairly long and legalese for proposal, as they're currently set up. If you made them the same, then they would be the same. You would just have a different title at the top. So from here we've got kind of a countdown. You see here that our number one thing is to select the job. Our number two thing is to select one or more rooms to include, and we've done those two things. And now number three, we're deciding whether we want an estimate or a proposal, and in this case we're going to choose estimate. We're going to do a separate video on proposal, or how to convert an estimate into a proposal, which is just simply checking this box, but typically there's some work you have to do first to go from estimate to proposal. And then select reports to include. So the job information is the cover sheet, the first thing you see, and then we can, on these item listing, the second page, which might be multiple pages depending on how many items are in the room, you could have the cabinets, the doors, the drawer fronts, the panels, the toe board, the fillers, trim, molding, accessories, and hardware. And these buttons right here, this one just checks all those boxes for you. This one unchecks all of them for you. Checks them all. Unchecks them all, and then whatever you have called standard would be included here. I think it's worthwhile to show everything. I have a lot of users that have had discussions on this with me, and they feel like that it brings up questions that wouldn't come up otherwise, but if you ever end up in court, you'll be glad everything was there. So if you want to really cover your bases, then include everything. You also eliminate some phone calls, saving yourself time when you include everything. If you have some, say, pull-out trays, and they're listed at $100 each, and you have them itemized, hey, you're getting 4 of these and it's $400, they know what it would cost to get 6 of them. They know what it would cost if they eliminated them. They don't have to call you to ask that question. But if you just have this long list with no pricing and individual itemized items, they have no idea, and they end up having to call you and ask you questions. So that's one good reason to include everything. And then up here, this is a new feature of version 7, include pictures, and we'll see that. I don't think this job has too many accessories, but we'll see whatever it does have. And you can say no if you don't want them. If you don't want those to be on your estimates and proposals, you can exclude those pictures by saying no, but we're going to leave it set to yes. And then include prices. Some people want an estimate with just the total number at the bottom and no prices for these individual items. And if you say no here, you won't get prices. You'll have the items listed out, the cabinets and the doors and the fillers, but there won't be prices for the individual items. And then include tax markups and discounts, yes or no, and that's just literally including all those things in the prices for these items. So it's not for the estimate itself. The tax and the markups and the discounts are going to be in your bottom line number, but this is saying for each line item. So when it shows a cabinet, do you want that cabinet to include the tax and the markup and the discounts for that cabinet? And I always keep all three of these set to yes all the time. And then this is a good thing to leave set here, select to show on report. So in the items in the database, you have the option to say show on reports. So anything that has the radio button checked will show on reports if you have this checked, and anything that's not checked with the radio button at the item level will not show. If you set it to this, they'll show whether you have that checked or not. So this is technically the right way to keep this set, but we've had people with preferences, so that's why that exists. And then include a second copy for customer or builder. You can say yes or no. So basically it's that last signature page where they put a signature on it. You're creating a page that the homeowner or the builder could keep So if you mailed this thing to them, they could sign one and mail it back to you and then keep the other one if they didn't have a copy machine or a way to make a duplicate of it. Typically I keep this set to no. And then job notes are the notes we talked about in earlier videos that are part of that job info page. There's 4 tabs and the last tab has notes, and here we're seeing that we could include those. I don't include those on my reports. I never have found a need for that, but you could if you needed to. And this is kind of the meat of the reports right here, this whole bottom section. And this is the part people struggle with, and I'm just going to say that I see no reason at all to use any of these preview options. In past generations of the software it was valuable, but today I'm going to recommend we use preprint anyway. So I'm just going to say that this is the option you want to always choose, is no preview. We don't want to have to toggle through all the previews that come up. We just want to go no preview, straight to print, fastest. And then I don't even want to see the dialog box, because again, I'm going to set my printer to preprint. This is preprint down here, and we'll bring that up in a minute. And I want it to go straight to preprinter, and that's how I want to preview it, not using the Windows 10 previewer. So I'm going to turn this to no, and you can set it to yes, and it'll pop up and ask you which printer you want to send it to. But I want to do that from PriPrinter, not from in here. So this is my standards. Now before we hit the print reports, I do want to show you one thing real quick. I'm going to go to the dashboard and go to users. And I've only got one user in this version, but when you're at the user, you have this second tab for every user if you have a multi-user version. So each user can have their own preferences for how these reports print out. And so you see I've got this set up basically like what we were looking at, but what you set here is how that's going to look when you come in. So if you don't like all these things checked and you don't want to have to change it every time you come there, set what you want here in your preferences for your user. What this allows is for people that have 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 users to have different settings, their own preferences. So set this up one time, and then you never have to come back here. And then when you come to reports, it'll always have everything you're wanting to do filled out for you. So let's go through this real quick again. I'm going to go to the Buttercup Castle. I'm going to select all. All of this is good because I have it set to what I want. So I'm going to say print report, and then we get this review right here. And this review is some of the questions we were asked early on and some additional items. So is it still one trip? And so we think this is important that you did this initial set this job up and put in a trip quantity and miles to the job way early on. Well, since that happened, possibly you've added some bathrooms or added a basement bar or something like that. So maybe the trip quantities change. We just want to remind you, you've set this trip quantity to 1 and you're going 60 miles. Now that probably wouldn't change, but this might. Or you might need to change these rates, and then just double checking all of these things. Do you need to have that fixed adjustment? Have you found this customer to be a pain in the butt between estimate and proposal, and we want to jack the price up 10% because they're harder to deal with than normal? But it's just letting you double check all of these things. Now I'm going to pop into PriPrinter real quick and show you a little bit about PriPrinter because I don't have access to KCD. I want to delete this before I send something else to it, but I wanted to show you how this works. So PriPrinter looks a lot like Word in the sense that you have this ribbon up here, and there's really only 2 things you have to know as far as what you'll use it for 95% of the time, and that is print now or come over to the PDF and then use this save as a PDF. So the objective of this is to give you the ability to move things around over here. But once you've got everything like you want it, you're going to do one of 2 things. Print it for your own use, or you're going to go to this PDF tab and you're going to say save as a PDF and give it a name and save it somewhere appropriate. But one of the beautiful things about this is, so what I've done, just for the sake of time, and since I don't have access to KCD, I had to do this from some PDFs that I had, I've printed a job to this, and so you can see it's actually broke it down into the rooms because they were separate. So this is the first room, which happens to be the kitchen, and then this is the second room. You can see the little headers there. And then this is the third room. So I've got a master bath and like a hall bath, and then I've got a kitchen. Then I sent all the reports out of Custom Cabinet Estimator, and here they are. And so this is for the kitchen, and then the job details for the kitchen. Same thing for the master bath, same for that last bath. So what this allows you to do is, I've sent all this stuff out, but I don't want it to go to the customer like this. So I can take these pages and just slide them up here and put this, sometimes on this very first one it's a little difficult, so you have to kind of drop it as the second one, and then actually I think I have to take the first one, slide it down is usually what I have to do. And once that's done, you're good. And then take this, and I'll try it here. I haven't done this in a while, so I want to check and see if we can drag 2 at once. So let's try that, shift, and I think you can. And then I want that to be at the top of this second. Is. And yes, you can drag 2 at a time or the whole room at a time. So here I'm grabbing these, and you don't have to worry about these extra headers that are here. Okay, so that's got the hall bath, and then the hall bath details, and then the hall bath floor plan, and then the hall bath elevation. So these extra headers is what I was talking about earlier. You don't have to delete those. You can just leave them. It won't hurt anything in printing it. Then we've got this master bath details, but getting this in order so when your customer gets it, they don't have to sort through it or print it out and to get it sorted right. You can sort it right, and you can add as many different things as you want. If you need to add a Word document in here, if you need to add an Excel spreadsheet in here to illustrate something, anything you want, if you print it to here, it comes into this holding area, and then you can slide them around as you need to. You can also come in here from the page layout and highlight things. You can add a watermark across here, maybe put your logo as a really light grayscale in the back. You can turn the whole thing grayscale if you don't have a color printer. You can do a lot of things with this program, but 99% of the time what you're going to want to do is say print now, or go to PDF forms and save as PDF. So I'm going to close this, get rid of that. I showed you what I wanted to show you about it, and then we're going to come and hit this with this new job. And we've said here that we do want to show the quote on the design. So let's go to continue. And you see the hourglass come up, and so it's sending to fine print because I have that set as my default printer, and I'm not looking at all those previews and having to click the continue button and all those things that the FileMaker preview does. So I went straight to fine print, went right past all of that mess with the previews, and now I have my report, and this one's actually in the exact order I want. And so I would next send my drawings and start sliding them into position. You can see how it's still broke them apart by room. And that's something we do internally intentionally. So we've got our estimate, and then we have the line item details for the estimate, and then we have the images that we said we wanted to see. So we're saying this is the drawer system we're going to use, this is the hinge we're going to use, this is the crown mold we're going to use, and this is the light rail we're going to use. This is a new feature to this version of Custom Cabinet Estimator. And then here's the second room. Details for this room. If it's more than one page, you see it just runs over into the second page. And then we have the images for this room. Same things. And same things here. Used a different crown mold here, and we have an accessory here. So any accessories, Lazy Susans, anything you have an image with the item will be on these image reports. And then the next to the last page is always your conditions. So because this is an estimate, they're short and sweet. And then you have your actual estimate. And this structure can be changed considerably depending on the decisions you make at the terms and conditions when you're setting those up as your defaults. But you can see here that it's detailed out these 3 rooms independently. So there's room 1, there's room 2, there's room 3. Then it's subtotaled them, added the delivery charge, and then it's also added all of that up to a total. And then we have a payment schedule, and I think this is one of the strengths of Custom Cabinet Estimator. Tell people when you expect to be paid. In this case, we're saying we want a design fee that is required to begin the design process. So we need this before we ever design all of the cabinetry in your house. And then we needed a 50% deposit, 25% due at storage, 25% balance due upon completion. And that's an unusual one there. I don't know why that was chose. This job's been in there forever. Usually this says 50% deposit required to place job into production schedule, 25% due prior to delivery or at delivery are the most common. And then you have your signature lines, and that's how you do the reports from Custom Cabinet Estimator. That's it for this tutorial on reports. Next we will look at converting an estimate into a proposal in Custom Cabinet Estimator. Thanks for watching.